Just unusually for me, I'm just going to talk a little bit about structure. So we've got Chris to talk very, very shortly. Very excited to hear Chris. Part of a mastermind group with Chris, and he's wonderfully insightful and knowledgeable about business development and marketing. Okay. The nice thing is we've got two speakers in the marketing sense of very different styles, different energies, but both with very useful, relevant knowledge that you'll be able to take information away from, which is great. In terms of after the next hour, then there's an opportunity. You feel free to ask questions of myself and Chris and Kylie. There's an opportunity to talk about the membership site and resources we've now got available. We've got a mastermind group that's also available with a bit of supervision for coaching. So anything that you've got any questions about, there's a table at the back with further resources in terms of script manuals, motivational map cards, and a couple of books. There's an opportunity to hang around, do some more networking, maybe even finish off some of my values work you started, or maybe even practice a technique that you want to get some practice with. So there's 45 minutes, half an hour there available for you to use as you see fit. And now we've got the opportunity, drum roll please. We've got a real drum roll.
Wow, what a day. What a day. I knew it was going to be brilliant. You know, I've worked with Bevis and Jules, I've worked with Paul. I knew it was going to be brilliant. I didn't quite understand how brilliant. I've got more notes today than I've made in months, honestly. So, excuse me. I will give you a little bit about my background and why I'm qualified to stand up here and give you some hints and tips. But I want to take you through a process. Okay, I want to take you through a process because one of the things that I've found I've been doing this for 27 years. I've had a number of businesses of my own. Some I still have, some I don't. Some went brilliantly, some we never talk about, even in a darkened room. And there's a reality. The reality is that we will make mistakes. And I say to my clients all the time, look, we can build some perfect systems and processes, but you're just going to put people into them. And that's the end of your perfect process. Okay, you guys understand that more than anything. And one of the things I did want to start with is the fact that you are eminently qualified right now to make a big success of your coaching business. Eminently qualified. Because you have a better understanding of people and how people think than the vast majority of businesses. Okay, so I want you to think about that. So if you've got that understanding, the very first thing I want to talk about is what Kylie was talking about earlier. And I just want to make a real point here. There is, and I will be talking a little bit about it, but there is nothing more important than the element Kylie was talking about earlier, about the identification of why people should buy from you. Because here's a fact, it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter if you decide you want to productize something, it doesn't matter how good your product is, if people don't truly understand and appreciate why they should buy from you. Okay? So that's quite important. Marketing is a science, it's not a black art. I'm getting on a bit. When I first started in this, I was in America and was living over there, and there were a lot of people very much a hooded crow thing. You know, marketing is so difficult. You've got to be uber brilliant. You know, you've got to have the right suit on, the right trousers. You've got to go to the right places and be seen with the right people. What an utter load of rubbish. There are systems and processes. It's a learned process. It's scientific. The key to marketing is to ensure that what you do, you test, refine, okay, after you've reviewed it. So you test, review, refine, revise until your numbers tell you that it works. Okay? My favourite one is I spoke to my brother-in-law. He wouldn't read that. What is your brother-in-law? He's a brickie. Yeah, he's a brickie. Okay, and he's buying how much nuclear fission stuff? No. And there's the reality. You know, it's like once seen in a photograph with. Okay, so you will get naysayers about some of the stuff you'll put out there. You've probably had it already. But what I want to do is take you through the 5 key steps in your marketing and sales, because there is a process, and the key to this is to think about it like a recipe. Don't miss any out. Okay, Kylie was talking about the processes earlier. I'm going spot on. Every day's a school day. I wrote loads of notes. Okay, so it's obviously not that one then. Okay, so Kylie was talking about education. The answer to the question, why choose your product or your service? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about lead generation. So we're into number 2 already. And lead generation is simply, what do you do to get your message in front of the right people at the right time? Okay. The inquiry to sale process. So you've got your leads coming in, or you had an inquiry. What do you do with it next? Because that's quite critical. Okay, so you've got to build the relationship. We've got, then there's time for a decision. Okay, it's decision time. But has anybody ever said, yeah, maybe, not now, perhaps, can we talk about it again in 3 months? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then once you have a client, the key is to retain them, providing they have a need. Okay? So obviously, I don't need to labour that point, but it's when they have a need, you don't want to go anywhere else. Help them to understand the value you're bringing to them. Don't just assume they'll get it. So, this is your business, all right? This is my business, this is Kylie's business, Bevis's business, Jules' business. This is all of your businesses. This is every business I've ever worked with. And I just want to make a key point here. I have been very, very fortunate. My wife, Kay, at the time, was British Defence Intelligence, and she got a posting to Washington DC, and she phoned me and she said, Chris, I've got this opportunity to get a posting in Washington DC, what do you think? I went, I'm packed. So Kay took me out to America. Now she didn't bring me back, but that's a whole other story. But while I was out there, a couple of things happened. I'd started work in the War Office in Whitehall. I went to the Undersecretary of State for Defence, Outer Office. I was bored witless, square peg, round hole. So I moved job where I was working in a dockyard, in ship's agency. I was bringing vessels in and out of port, making sure cargoes were cleared. I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I worked out quickly that the more you know, the more you're worth. So I worked my way around various different agencies to the people who owned the dockyard. Okay? And one of the things that always bugged me was, why did clients choose one agency over another? What was it that made them choose? Because I'm thinking, these guys are brilliant, but they're struggling. These guys are okay, but they've got some brilliant clients. Why is that? It was the way in which they educated the market. Pure and simple. Now, here's a reality. You have to deliver. So they were able to deliver, but in my humble but entirely accurate opinion, these guys were better than these. Okay? Why was it? Marketing. So every single business that I've worked with, and I've been fortunate. I've worked in the US, Canada, all over Europe, UK, and I've worked with literally hundreds of businesses. And the same things come up time and time again. Doesn't matter on the size of business, doesn't matter on the type of business, because fundamentally, it doesn't matter who you're selling to a person. Yeah? There's that sales word again. Oh, I don't like selling, Chris. Well, neither do I. But if you're good at something and you know you can help somebody, it's your absolute responsibility to help them understand why they should buy from you. Because otherwise, they might go to somebody who can't deliver what you can deliver. And that would be tragic for both parties. Okay, so move away from the selling thing and talk about education. So this whole process here is all our businesses. So the first thing...
Chris?
Yes?
Can you just say that again? Say that again, because that's just a brilliant reframe that we could just miss.
Okay.
Move away from the selling thing.
Move away from selling and towards educating. Okay.
Just say that again.
Move away from selling and towards educating.
And the reason I've done that is because I just have a feeling that when people think about selling, they get in a certain state and it feels very uncomfortable. And when you think about educating, for me, that creates a completely different mental image.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you because that's very, very useful.
Cool. And the thing is, let's just stop on that for a second then, the education process. So somebody says, look, I'm desperate to find such and such and such and such. My child's been knocked off their bike, I understand that's where they are. Do you know where it is? Yeah, look, ushers, watch, come with me, and you educate them. How fantastic is that? You've just delivered. That's all you do. Okay, so as Bevis said, put it in context. So we're now educating people about the value. And I was talking to Rob in the break, and we were talking about the fact that, you know, you'll come across people where you'll realise that you're not the person for them and they're not the person for you. That's fine. That's fine. I worked with an Australian fella. Really, he was absolute marvel. Had a business all around Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, the West Coast, the US, etc., etc. And he said to me, Chris, you can't push wet noodles. And I thought, what? You can't push wet, and then but he's right. You know, take a piece of spaghetti. You can dig it where you like. Put it in water. So what you do with that? Okay, you can't push. So what he's saying to me was, and what he explained was, look for the lookers. Don't try and get people to come in to your sphere and, you know, like, no, you've really got to do it because it'll be really good for you. They'll do it if they want to do it. Find the lookers. Okay. So we've got education. I'm not going to bang on about that because Caitlin did a marvellous job. But what I will say is, if you do not get that right, and I don't care what you call it, your unique selling proposition, your value proposition, your magic story, all your points of differentiation, what it is the answer to why should I buy from you? That's what it is. And it can be, you know, pages long. You can pull pieces out of it and use it. Or it can be quite short and succinct, but it's got to work for you. Okay? And you've got to have the focus that Kaylee talks about. You've got to be able to bring it all the way down to here, like Matt did. Okay? But it's tough sometimes. Don't think you've got to have a one-word answer. Make sure you've got a big, long, extrapolated answer that people can really get to grips with. And the reason for that is some people are impulsive. And what I mean by that is, I like the look of that, I like the colour, I'll have one. And they buy it. And then you've got people like me. I'm an information hound. Drives my wife up the wall. Takes me forever to buy anything because I do my research and then I'm going, yeah, I'm just going to go back and look at this one. Right? So it really does drive her mad. But my point is this, give Ellen a few things to choose from, she'll choose one. Give me a few headlines and bits and pieces to choose from. It's not enough information. I'll move on till I find the information I need. So you've got to make sure that the information you've got flowing through your marketing delivers education, okay? From the client's perspective. So the next thing you've got to do, lead generations. These will all be familiar to you. You may use some of them, you may not.
Just pause there, Chris, because it might not be familiar.
Very good point. Anybody don't know what a website is? I'm in the right room. Right, networking.
Yeah.
Pay-per-click.
Okay, not sure of that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bevis. Pay-per-click. Right. If you go on to, let's say, Google, and you look up notebooks, okay, blue notebooks specifically, and you look them up, and up comes sponsored ads. That's your pay-per-click. So what those businesses are doing are investing in those ads, and they literally pay per click. Then you've got your organic. That great. So pay per click. Social media, cold calling. Unlikely to do that in here, but you might. You might. If you're really in business to business and you're looking for corporate clients, absolutely that might be a possibility. email prospecting, podcasts, getting sponsorships, etc., etc. That list just carries on forever. What you've got to find are the things that work for you. One of the worst things you can do is to look at another business that you consider to be, let's say, a competitor, and you value them. You think they're awesome. They do this, this, and this. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, it might be a good starting point, but test and refine, measure, because it might not be working for them. They could be spending a fortune. Now you're going to spend a fortune. It's not going to work for you either. Okay, so don't just assume. So we've got lead generation. This is quite key. Inquiry to sale process. And I just want to spend a minute on this. So let's say you generate, for my maths, right, because I'm a marketeer, not a mathematician, 100 leads over the course of time, whatever time is. And those 100 leads generated here drop into your inquiry to sale process, which is your email or call, or they walk through the door, or whatever it is, your first interaction. Okay? So you have, let's assume you have a discussion with them, and then there's more information needed, and you go, okay, I'll send you more information. No, that's all right. Or you send the information, and it falls in between the cracks. So you started with 100, you might get 80 into that next one. The point I want to make here is you've already wasted 20% of your time, energy and money. Because whatever you do, even if it doesn't cost you anything, it's going to cost you your time and energy, and that's money. And I know not everybody's money focused, but if you're going to be running it as a business, you need to have a weather eye on it. Okay, so we go 80. Then go, right, well, let's log the info on our CRM. Fact packet, spreadsheet, book, doesn't matter as long as you're recording, who you've spoken to, and a few notes. Okay, so contact details, simple stuff. Then you go to follow-up process. Can you get hold of them? Psst. Right? Some of them you can, some of them you can't. So you get to the point, you may have a meeting, you send them a proposal, whatever it is, okay? And then there's the yes, no, or maybe. They're the only three possible outcomes, yes, no, or maybe. So you get to this yes, no, or maybe, and what you're looking at is to say, on those figures, and just in this scenario and example, you go, right, okay, email or call, drop 100 in there, goes to 80. Log the info, go to follow-up. That might drop to 40. You have a meeting perhaps, that might drop to 30. All 30 of those are going to get a proposal, and then 10 will say yes. Nobody says maybe, really, they just don't respond properly. Nobody says no. They're all maybes. You may get the no. You may get the no, this isn't for me. But let's say you've had 30 proposals and you sell 10. If I asked you what's your conversion rate, you'd say, Chris, it's 1 in 3. No, it's not. It's 1 in 10. Okay, because this is where the money started to be spent, the time, effort and resource. So thinking about this from a business perspective, we're all going to get no's. We're all going to get no's. But when you get a yes, fantastic, everybody's happy. But my question is this. If you develop your reasons why, and your reasons why permeate everything that you do in your lead generation, and then they go through your inquiry to sale process to further educate them to the value that you bring, and we've got 90 in the no, for example, do you think it would be reasonable to assume you could bring back 3 or 4 of those 90 to a yes? Is that reasonable? If you're doing your education properly? Okay? So what you've just done by systemics and process driving this thing is to add 30 to 40% to your initial. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so there's some basic stuff here, but systemics is key. So I want to work through this because retention and maximising. Look, if somebody is going to work with you, what happens is it's almost like you're talking to somebody and you're excited, they're excited, and you give them some information, and then you become a client and it's fantastic and you're working with them, and then somebody else inquires and you're all over here excited with them, Okay, and they're excited and you're excited, and then somebody else over here is asking you, so you're all excited over here. What's happened to the first person you're working with? Yeah, I'll call you back in a bit. Okay? Now, it's not quite like that, but it can feel like that if you're on this end of the phone. Okay? So it's a bit like, back when I was a kid and a teenager, first thing I'd do, I'd get out of get my suit and get on my bike and away I'd go to the pub or the disco, because we had discos back then. And it'd be like, all right, how you doing? Because I was dead suave. Right? And being tall helped, trust me. Right? Anyway, so you buy the lady a drink and she's talking to you. Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles, she wants to see you again. Fantastic, I'll pick you up next week. Go round there, get on the back of the bike, there's your own crash helmet. She loves it, right? Away we go somewhere really smart, somewhere really nice, like a posh pub. And we might have something to eat, and then, eventually I'll get down on one knee. Will you marry me? Yes, I will. Fantastic, right? That's not the end of the story, though, is it? Because if I go, brilliant, we're married now, I'm off down the pub with the lads, I'm away for the weekend, I'm going to wherever, she'd be really upset. Now, I'm sure none of you have ever done anything like that. But the reality is that relationships need to be fostered, and so do your client relationships. And it's not just to retain them while they need you, but these people know other people who need you. So when you're putting together a strategy to get referrals, you need to make sure that they still understand the reasons why they came to you, the real reason they're buying, and more importantly, the outcomes. So coming back to what Kaylee was alluding to earlier, outcomes. So, very swiftly then, so we're back to this education process. We've talked about that. You've got to take people behind the scenes. Tell them your story. You've all got a story. You've all got reasons that people should buy from you, right? You've got to make it visible. Make the invisible visible. And I'll tell you a brief story. A client of mine, I've been working with them now since 2012. Worked for 8 years, 2-year break, back in again because now they need my help again. I'd been working with them for about 18 months. They had this particular process and service. They're a packaging company, quite a large one. And they have this measurement called on time in full to get this product into store. And I said to the business development director about 18 months, I'm sure it was something like that, after I've been working with them. So this on time in full, what's your figure for this particular product and service? He said, well, we do 99.4%. I said, 99.4%, that's impressive. Yeah. It was great. I said, so what's the average in the industry? He said about 93. I said, what, 93%? Yeah. I said, right. I said, now I've been working with you for 18 months. I've read everything that's ever been written that you use for your marketing and in your sales communications. I've talked to everybody on the sales team. Talked to everybody in every department. I've been around and looked at what's on the walls. I've never seen that fact that your OTIF is 99.4%. And he just looked at me. And he's a really smart bloke, right? But he just looked at me like, oh. I said, well, look, don't tell anybody in case they buy from you. And the only point I want to make is, you can be super smart, but you can miss stuff. And you will miss stuff. And don't assume that just because you're working with smart people, they will understand and they'll join the dots. They absolutely will not. Because I guarantee you, you'll walk out of here, you'll remember probably 15% of what Kaylee was talking about this morning, 15% of what I've talked about, 15% about what the guys have talked about. Because that's the way the brain works. So you need to make sure that you join the dots for them. So when you're educating, a phrase I tend to use with a lot of people is, we do X, which means so that, So when you're talking to people, you go, well, we use the latest, fastest processor. Who wants one? But if you said we use the latest, fastest processor, which means that, you can cut down your time doing that particular application by 62%, which means that, so you get faster production, blah, 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 blah. You've got all these various different reasons to tell people. Extrapolate, make sure the story's there. Rob, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, just really like your comment about, well, my theory or my hypothesis is I work with such smart people that they're dumb because they miss, in terms of, I call warm data people. They're great at cold data,
Yes.
so they don't do warm data. Or, and I've had a fantastic experience this week. One's a neuroscientist.
Right.
The other one's, I don't even know what he is. He's like, they're so brainy.
Pretty smart.
So smart.
Yeah.
And one of them says to me, because he wants to be seen as smart, his opening line to me, and his business partner said he did that to show you how smart he is. What is your epistemology? And I said, nobody's ever asked me that for a long, long time. But both of them will talk for hours and they find it very difficult to just say what I want is.
Yes.
They will go on
Yes.
and on and on.
And it's a great point, Bob, because you'll see, if I talked to those guys and wrote something for them, or you wrote something for them, and it was in plain language, they would not be coming back to you going, you didn't use as many big words as I thought you would. Okay, they'll make a decision, a qualified decision. But if you use language that doesn't work, nobody's going to know.
And it just blew my mind that, of how their brains work.
Yeah.
Because my answer to that was a joke. I said, it's Taoism meets systemic change. He goes, oh, I like that. It means nothing.
It doesn't mean anything. But he
nothing.
liked it because he thought it was a smart answer.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't understand it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Which is crazy, isn't it? That's people for you. So never lose sight of the fact that you're always working with people. So think about, I use, and you'll see this a lot, what's in it for me? Now, over the years, I've done a lot of speaking. I've been really fortunate, big rooms, small rooms, and I love it when people are interested. And I was talking to this room, there were 100 people in it, and there's this lady right at the front, she's avidly writing. Well, that's great, she's interested, that's always good news. She's writing away, and I'm talking about this process, and I'm talking about the what's in it for me. And I said, nobody cares about anything except what's in it for me, and she went ballistic. Right? I thought, that's not the reaction I'd anticipated, but what she was saying was, I do a lot of charity work, and no, it's not all about me, it's not all about me. And I said, I really understand where you're coming from. I said, tell me, I appreciate the fact that you do all your charity work. I said, I didn't mean to upset you, but how long have you been doing this? And we talked a couple of minutes just about all this charity work. And I said, so you do all of that for all these different organisations, that's fantastic. How does it make you feel? And then shut up and she went, oh, I get it. Because there's a reality, there is something endemic within all of us that drives us. Okay, now she might have been looking for the outcomes for these people, but it still made her feel good. Okay, if it made her feel bad, she probably wouldn't do it. So think about the what's in it for me from their perspective, put them in your shoes. Just a very quick exercise, because I'm aware of time. I want you to think, and if you've got pad and paper, write down the 3 primary reasons your clients might need your services. Okay? Just quickly. The 3 primary reasons your clients might need your services. Don't overthink it, because the next question is, what are their biggest fears to taking on board your service? And the final one is what are their biggest frustrations? The reason I ask you these is if you truly understand why people are going to come to you for whatever service it is that you are offering to whichever target market, okay, doesn't matter whether it's B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. if you understand what their fears are, if you understand what their frustrations are, and in your formative education processes, whether that be your website, whether it be talking to them at a networking meeting, maybe a letter, an email, a proposal, it doesn't matter what it is, if you answer those for them, to their satisfaction, you're far more likely to get a yes. Now, a yes might be, Chris, I need a bit more information. Can we get together again? Yeah, absolutely. Good sign, buying signal. Okay, but it's important. It's important. Okay, now I want to show you an example. Has anybody ever been to Pret-a-Manger? Sandwich shop. Okay, so you've all paid way over the top for a sarnie as well. Okay, out of those that have been, who went back? All of us. Why is that? We've paid over the top for a sandwich. We've gone back. A lot of it is down to the fact their education processes are brilliant. This, as you can see from the grease, is a photocopied Pret-a-Manger sandwich box. Okay, it's an old one because I've used this a lot because I just love it. And the reason I use it and the reason it's up there is because Pret-a-Manger are superb at educating their market. You go into any one of them, sandwich box, it'll tell you. Napkin, it will tell you. On the walls, on the cups, everywhere. It tells you why their sandwiches are great and why their coffee's brilliant and so on and so forth. To the point where McDonald's invested in them and took them to America. Okay? Because America needs another fast food outlet. But the point is, if you can take an English sandwich shop, Pret-a-Manger, right, sounds English to me. Okay? If you can take that and move it to America and get people to buy, you've really cracked it. So I just want to run through a couple of things for you here. On this bit it says, and this is passion fact number 46, so you get the point, you know. They say, in case you can't see it, to ensure your food is fresh, every Pret has its own sandwich kitchen. We can't bear the idea of a huge factory depot thingy. Our sandwich and salad chefs rely on fragile, fresh, natural ingredients. We love the tricky stuff like fresh avocado, very crispy bacon and fresh salad leaves. Is that conjuring a picture? Right? So it's framing what you bought. It doesn't make you think a couple of bits of white bread, a slice of ham. It doesn't make you think like that. Right? Because we make in-house, you'll not find shelf life and display dates on our salads and sandwiches. Oh, another good point. So, over here, loving care. Our unique sandwich box is a guarantee that your Pret sandwich is fresh and made with loving care. Oh, you can just see them, can't you, out the back? They're going, oh, Chris, here's your sandwich. You know. But it's so, I know you're going to be delighted with it, and the tears and all that. You know, loving care. They're really putting their heart and soul into it. Because the box is made from card, not plastic, it can't be heat sealed or gas flushed. What's that all about? Okay, so you're steaming down the motorway, you pick up your sandwich out of wherever and you go, gas flush sandwich. Okay, preservatives. But you can't do that with this. It won't hold a long life factory sandwich. There are no preservatives, no sell by dates and definitely no nappy pads. Okay, those of you that have got children know what children are. Nappy pads. That you know, there's connotation to that. Clever use of words. Because what it means is that gauze bit in the bottom of your plastic gas flush box that holds all the liquid, gurge, yucky stuff, all that bit that you go, my sandwich was just sitting on that, I better not think about it, and it goes in the bin. But they make you think about it. At the end of the day, we'd rather offer our unsold sandwiches to charity than keep them over and sell the next day. So you know they're really fresh. The point is this. You're sitting at your table, you've got your coffee, you've got your sandwich, what are you going to read? You might be on your phone, but you do that all the time. Okay, so there's your sandwich box. Make sure you post where you can. Right, we're going to whip through lead generation, how to get in front of your customers properly. This is so key. And I'm not going to start telling you this is what you need to do, because it'll be different for all of you. But one thing is clear, be sure of your target market. Who are you going to talk to? Why would they need to buy from you? So, the lady that dealt with chronic pain of hips, knees, okay? Quite clearly good target market. The next thing is to make sure that you've got a system and a process to put the right message in front of the right people at the right time. systems and processes. And the reason systems and processes are so important to you in your business is the fact that you're going to want to replicate them. Have you ever created something marvellous in the kitchen? Okay, it might be a mess, it might be a great meal, but you've created something and you want to replicate it. You go, what did I put in it? Okay, but if you've got a recipe there and it tells you how much to put in and when to put it in and when to take it off the heat, you see my point, don't you? Okay, I won't labour it. Okay, key performance indicators. I say all the time, what you can't measure, you can't manage. And you know, you can take that all different ways. But listen, if you're not measuring it, how do you know if it's working or not? So if you find out it works well, what do you do? More of it. If it's not working well, what do you do? Less of it. Basic stuff. But if you don't measure it, you won't know. So systems to measure. And then it's rinse and repeat. Once you know it's proven, because once all these things become embedded. Okay, they become embedded. Systems. So, inquiry to sale, building a relationship, this is key. You know, you've got to communicate with people and you've got to communicate effectively. I remember talking to lots of different sales teams and we're saying, right, okay, we're building this bridge towards a customer and you're giving them all the analogies. And then you find out that, well, you know, we're not using that, Chris, because there's a quicker way. And you go, hang on a second, does it work as well? There are times when I've elongated sales processes because it's another opportunity to educate. If you're going to meet somebody and you go, great, Chris, I'll see you at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Thank you very much, brilliant. But if you email me and say, it was great talking to you, Chris, I'm looking forward to meeting you at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, when we can explore how we can help you to achieve that and that and that. Do you think the meeting's more likely to go ahead? Do you think they're going to be in the right frame of mind? So there's a lot of simplistic stuff in here that just has to be adhered to. That's right for your particular business. You've got to make sure that you get the balance right, okay? They need to understand the value over what you're charging. Very, very true. What Kylie was talking about earlier, so many people undercharge, you wouldn't believe it. But you know who's more resistant to price? The buyer or the seller? Who's most worried? Yeah, the seller. So why aren't we charging enough? Because we're not educating people effectively. Okay, it's all about effective education, and that's what you're looking for. So make sure you get the balance right. That builds confidence levels. The right amount of right information for individuals builds confidence. Now, people say to me, well, Chris, how you're telling me you've got people out there like Ellen who are really impulsive, and she'll go, oh, I like, look at that, and that tells me the right thing and I'm going to buy. Now, buying might be I'll pick up the phone and talk to you. Okay? Yet you will go through everything to find out whether or not you want to buy. How do I get that balance? And the key is, let's use a website as an example. In your website, you need to have a landscape, and that landscape needs to be easy to follow. So you will use images that are indicative, maybe with captions. You'll use headlines that are compelling, but you'll also use sub-headlines, okay? And you'll use, and this happens next, and that happens, and take people on a journey, because you need to cater for everybody. Okay? Brand, customer, strategy gives you loyalty. That's what we're talking about. So I just want to give you a quick example. Who uses quotations, proposals? Interesting. Okay. But you all tell people how much you're going to charge them, right? Okay, so we're all using quotations and proposals in one way, shape or form. The reason I show you this is...
Pause on that.
Yep.
There's a... I think sometimes there's a lot of people in the room that will be charging per hour for a session. Kylie talked about moving towards value-based pricing, and actually the vehicles between charging per hour and for a coaching package is a proposal.
Yes.
So it's what tends to happen at the end of a coaching session or a counselling session or a therapy session is, would you like to see me again? Book me in, it's X pounds. And that just happens. So actually, Well, the proposal in your world is so obvious because it's what everyone does, but there'll be a lot of people in the room who aren't using them yet because they're not yet charging based on a package of coaching.
Very good point,
And
Bevis.
in my jargon, it's sales pages or order forms. So it's like, because normally we'll do it via a sales page or something else. We don't. I don't do proposals. So I just have a good sale, but ready to go and buy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about whichever market you're working with,
Yeah, it's a package.
you know. So there's a package, and howsoever you do it, it's a proposition of sale. It's a proposal.
Yeah, if it's a verbal proposal, it's still a proposal, I suppose. So if I was
It
saying,
is.
okay, if you want to work for me, it's 50 quid,
Yeah.
that's a proposal of forms, we just don't necessarily think of it in that way.
No, and the problem is, what am I going to be most focused on, Danny, when I'm driving home?
The price.
The price. Okay, so if somebody comes in and says, I heard you saw Danny, I'll do it for 45. Do you know what I mean? It's a ridiculous example, but you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to two different coaches, I think I'll see which one I get on best with. Oh, I got on great with both of them. They're both brilliant. One's 45, one's 50. Okay? What happens if you are thinking of doing that and you've got somebody you're working with, they might be, or a partner or, you know, a work colleague, and they go, so, you met that person. You're thinking of doing coaching. Right? But you've got something written down that absolutely educates them to the real value that you bring. We haven't got time to go through this, but this is the point I want to make, okay? That and that. The only difference, exactly the same size piece of paper, the only difference is the words on the paper. That was the difference. Okay? How you articulate your value is absolutely critical. The how you put it in front of people, you can test and refine, you can test different things. Your value proposition, your ability to educate, to differentiate, to help them see benefit, understand, truly understand the value you can bring and what you can deliver is the far and away the most important thing that you can do in your business. Okay? So, are we doing all right for time?
Yeah, that's 15 minutes.
Thank you. Right, so I'm going to skip on. Okay, decision time. Ta-da! Will they or won't they? Okay. If you've got 19 proposals out there, it's not such a big deal. If it's the only one you've got sitting out there, you're sweating perhaps. Particularly when you're new in business. And don't get me wrong, I've done it. Okay, when I had a big company, big for me. Okay, but 3 dozen people, blah blah blah. I had a team out there, and I'm saying to them, look, the reality is you're going to have people who say no. And as long as you've done your best and you've helped them to understand the value to them, they're going to say yes, no, or maybe. But if they're not, when you're new to it, you're really sweating. Okay? And I've been in it in other businesses when I was a lot younger. You're thinking, I don't care what sort of person you are, what your values are. If you've got money, I'll sell to you. And you see a lot of people like that, but I tell you what, that becomes problematic. Because if you have a clearly defined audience and you've got your values and you adhere to them, your business will grow quicker because you're not wasting your time, energy and everything else, your resources, on somebody who's not going to be a long-term client. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll move on. So, yes, no, or maybe. One of the key things, follow up. Please, follow up. Okay, Chris, I never follow up. If they want it, they'll come and talk to me. What a load of rubbish. No, they won't. I know they won't. I don't mean nobody will ever call you. What I mean is, human nature is such that you'll fall between the cracks. And if somebody else goes up and says, yeah, okay, so you're looking for, yeah, I could help you with that problem. Tell you how we're going to help you. I'll tell you what, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. Who's likely to get that work? Okay? It's only part of the process. That's all it is. Retention and maximisation. Look, keep your prospects and customers on side. You've got to re-educate them. Okay, you've got to re-educate them. There is a case study out there. I say case study, it's a university study. And these studies, you know what it's like, study says this, study says that. There's a lot of really good ones out there and a lot that are done quite regularly. And there's a university study out there that says when they talk to the owners of businesses, And then when they talk to people who buy particular brands or go to particular stores, go to a supermarket or whatever. So they've covered the gamut and really gone through it. They say they work out why people change loyalty, or why they move on to a different supplier. 68% say that it's because they just didn't think it mattered that much to the supplier. Okay? Now I just want you to hear what I'm saying there. They didn't think it mattered that much. People, again, this is the stuff you guys are really brilliant at. So bring it into your marketing. Educate them. Ping them a little email now and again. Do you know one of the things that's been most successful in businesses of all sizes that I've worked with? Little thank you cards. Thank you to the accounts department for paying. We find that sometimes it's really difficult to get a payment on time. I just want to say thanks ever so much, because you guys always pay on time. Do you think they're going to skip? They want to maintain their 100%, and so on and so forth. Thanks ever so much for choosing to use us. We realise you had a choice, and we value the fact that you've chosen us to work with. Oh, gets you. You're dealing with people. Rob.
Got a really nice friend who loves giving me lots of his words of wisdom. He's always saying to me the 12 touch points, 12 touch points, remember that. Is that accurate, or is
It's a great point. Let me just cover that for a second, because the 12 touch points, the 7 touch points, the 9 touch points, the 5 no's, call it what you will, the number is irrelevant. Okay, it's the right number for you. So there are businesses where you can have 3 touch points and they'll always buy on the 3rd. There are those where you'll need 9 and they'll always buy on the 9th. Okay, the point is to make sure that you do enough. Now, I'm not talking about ready to buy yet, ready to buy yet, you're ready to buy yet, you're ready to buy yet. You're just going to hack people off. But if you communicate, truly communicate and educate and drip feed and give them more information, it works. So yeah, absolutely. So I was making the point earlier about having a recipe. And if you've got a recipe, so let's say you leave the eggs out of a cake, what happens? It's not a cake, okay? It's a royal mess and it tastes vulgar. But you see my point. So what I want you to think about is, if you're ever thinking, should I leave something out? The answer is no. Okay? Now, leave something out of what, Chris? Your process that you have tested, refined, embedded, and is proven to work. So I've got my message right, great, okay, it runs through my inquiry to sale process on the website, it's in my elevator speech, it's here, it's there, it's in my proposals, it's in everything, great.
I'll give an example.
Yeah, please.
Just to make this really kind of relevant, in terms of, like, so when we hear words like processing systems, most coaches go, shit. When we go, what do we do? So, to give you an example, I stopped worrying about my coaching business about a decade ago, when I started going around to golf courses, speaking to pros and saying, I can speak to your amateur golfers and help them there again. And I did a workshop up here with 30 golfers paying 30 quid a head, split the revenue between us. And I asked, and it took me 2 years to learn this, so I made long mistakes. And I said at the end of a workshop, actually in St. Neots, I said, people walking out the door, and I said, by the way, if anyone would like a free coaching session, come and see me. What I realised was that every time I spoke from then on, 10% of the audience would come and see me for a free coaching session. And then what I then realised was 90% of people came for a coaching session with different clients. And that was the moment I had the equivalent, what you're talking about. All I need to do was go out, speak, offer a session, do it. And follow up to that.
Yeah, because that was your process. And once you realised it worked, okay, so you don't leave anything out, which is crack it. And I completely endorse that. You know, you look at people, and sometimes, even now, you know, if anybody's seen my website, you'll realise that I'm better at this for other people.
Oh, I got that. I'm with you there.
Am I right?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
showing that social media.
And that is that is it. We are, because I can look at other businesses. I can take it. I can analyse a business, and I can dig and delve, and I can pull out. And it's actually one of my products is to pull out what are your USPs, what are your your value propositions, how do you differentiate, and then how do you put that down into an understandable. I can do for myself. No buggery,
We always need someone else.
you know.
And can I add to your
Please.
process too? Because I love what you're saying, because obviously a lot of people don't have that attention to detail after they've got a client. But also think about who your next 10 clients are and do the same process. So start to nurture them now. So quite often, people make getting clients complicated and needing big systems. But if you're looking for 5 corporate clients, for example, what are you doing to nurture them before you want to work with them? So start to think, are you connected on social media with them? Are you engaging with their employees on there? Are you commenting on their posts? Are you in their realm? So like at the moment, I'm nurturing 3 big speakers for an event in 6 months' time. But I've already started that process because I'm already in front of them. I want them to know who I am before I do any sort of outreach to them. So again, think about it in relation to where your clients are as well and apply the same process. Because quite often that's when you will also then close sales easier.
Yeah,
Because
that's
you've already
great. It's a really
nurtured
good point. And the thing is, once you've connected with them and you're following them and you're engaging with when they post something, don't forget to post yourself.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And you talk about things, and you can talk, and I know you understand stories, right? I know you understand stories. So tell them a story. I was talking to somebody the other day. Made me realise they had this issue, and I knew I had the answer, whatever it is. Okay? Now somebody is going to look at that and go, it's me. That's me. And if you're making sure that you're connected to the right people, as Kylie's just been saying, then the likelihood exponentially increases. And that's all you're looking to do, is increase exponential chances. So, we talked about systems and processes. Okay? That's it in a nutshell. But it can look at like anything, but the same elements, doesn't matter where they are, as long as they flow. And the thing to remember is to make sure that the content is relevant and is right for your target markets. Irrespective of who you're dealing with, there will be excellent reasons for them to need your skills. You will be getting, I don't know how long any of you have been at this, apart from the people that I've spoken to today, but you will be getting better and better at it. You'll keep coming to conferences, you'll keep coming to events like this, because, and I said it to Bevis, I've been looking forward to this. I don't always look forward to speaking gigs, some of them are cold. Chartered Institute of Insurers.
Yeah.
Fantastic it was. Not quite as good as this, but the point is this: I knew I was going to be talking to people who have got their head in the right space, okay, and who understand people. And if you understand people, the rest of this is systemics, process-driven, writing it down, reviewing it, revising it. Okay, there's a lot of help out there. And just keep in mind, what Kylie was talking about this morning. Remember the boxes across the top? But what flowed through the boxes? The answer to the question, why should I buy from you? Okay? So that's me. I'm going to be around for a while. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, please do. I give away a lot of free stuff because I think that's only fair, because I've been given a lot of free stuff over the years. Has anybody got any questions?
Where do you think artificial intelligence, AI, brand, all that stuff?
Now that is a brilliant question. Okay, I'll tell you why it's a brilliant question, Simon. That's a little bit spooky because I've been talking about the unique selling proposition. Okay, I've been doing this for 27 years. The last singular USP process that I did for a company, it took 2 months of work. In, out, talking to people, creating stuff, taking it back, getting it revised. Okay? One of my clients said to me, so let me get my head around this, Chris. let's go through, and we started the process. Okay, we were doing a whole consultancy piece and implementation, and they specialise in AI and automation. And he said to me, "You realise, of course, that we could shorten this process." I'm like, "What? How can you shorten the process? It's person to person." He went, "No, no, no. You harvest answers. You take information, and then you go, yeah, but what if? But why?" The exercise earlier, yeah, when we're going, right, why is that? What that value? Is that really? What was that? It was questioning. Imagine that done at a deep level for a business, for example. Okay, so I invested and had the system built. I do the front end. I do it online. I record it. AI picks it up, transcribes it, puts it through my program, and gives me 85% of what I need to then walk through it and create things, you know, a whole unique selling proposition, landing pages, you know, all the metadata for the website, everything, because it's so much faster than I am. For me to do that, 2 months. I daren't tell you how quick AI does it. In response to your question, I've gone off with, it's great for marketing. You guys need marketing too. If you've got the ability to use AI to shortcut a process, and what it delivers for you is of the right quality, exactly what you need, and all it does is speed up the process, then absolutely. It's coming, it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay? The guys that built my system, they're clients of mine, as I said, and he phoned me and he said, "Are you near a computer?" I said, "It's 10:30, Tim." "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm a geek." Right? "Are you near a computer, Chris?" "Yes, I am." I was at my desk. He said, "And I'm just going to send you something." He sent me a video. Now the video looked like that. And there was a really pretty lady, and I'm not being sexist, she was a pretty lady, and she had a hoodie on with a logo. And up here was a picture of a brain, and in the brain was embedded a circuit board. And she talked for about a minute. And she was talking about this process and yum, 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 and AI and this, that, and the other. Lip sync was perfect. It was running as a ticker tape across the bottom so you could read it if you were hard of hearing. And I pinged back to Tim and said, "Yeah, that's great." And he went, "That just took me 16 minutes.
Yeah,
that's all
AI.
The woman isn't real. Yeah. The picture of the brain with the circuit board was created by AI. The lip syncing, the audio, the ticker tape." He said, "Everything you've just watched, I created with AI in 16 minutes. So when you get the opportunity, embrace it if you can, because otherwise I'm afraid there is an element of being left behind. You know, and it is a bit like when social media came out. A lot of marketeers would go, "Well, social media is no good. You know, it won't last, it's just a bit of a fad." Well, no rubbish that was. Okay, the internet. Why do I need a website? Okay, and then everybody built websites and they were rubbish. Or they built websites and waited for the money to flow in.
Yeah, normally it's to sit back and wait.
Okay, systems and processes. Somebody, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember who, but somebody asked me the question earlier about how things have changed since I first began in this profession. And they have changed out of sight in terms of the tactical tools that we use. And they'll keep changing. But one thing won't change: the fundamental need to educate a person. The fundamental need for a person to understand and appreciate the value of something. Okay? And the fact that somebody somewhere will have to make a buying decision. So, the same basic premises apply, and it doesn't matter whether I've worked in Germany, Spain, you know, Italy, it doesn't matter. People are people, and people are, to a degree, predictable. What you've got to find is exactly what works for you. Okay. I'm going to be around if anybody has any further questions, but I really appreciate your attention and thank you for your interaction. It's so much nice.
Cheers.
Thank you, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.